continuously fucking up.
I know you are, but what am I?
Oh, God.
He asked me right before we started recording, what's wrong with you? And I said, don't ask questions you know the answers to.
Well, what is it?
You tell me, you know the answer.
Well, I want to jump in on a topic really quick. It's about your boy, Meatball, gay Ron DeSantis.
Oh my God.
Or is it gay Meatball Ron DeSantis? No, I don't.
It would have to be gay meatball because linguistically.
Gay Meatball, that was my mother. Call me Mr. Meatball.
Just ignore him, everyone.
You can't just tell people to ignore the co-host of the show.
I can.
So, we want to talk about how the somewhat popular Ron DeSantis has been shanghaied by Disney 6 ways from Sunday when it comes to their Reedy Creek development.
Right.
So, to give some background, it started with Disney pushing some woke nonsense.
Oh, no. To get the real background, like way back, in the day, Walt Disney was they were looking to build, Disney World.
Right.
And it needed certain updates and it had certain requirements that the Disney company then, or Walt Disney, asked of Florida, can you do these things? And they said, we don't have the funding for that. And he said, okay, well, I can pay for it. And they said, okay, we'll set up your own little government system where it's called the Reedy Creek, whatever it is. Improvement District.
Which I think is a really interesting term.
So they set up this basically autonomous zone and said, you have to pay for everything in this, square footage.
Right.
It's all up to your purview. And ever since then, they have honored that.
Well, it's the number one tourist attraction in Florida. It's probably the top 5 tourist attractions
in the country.
In the country. And probably in a top 5 foreign tourist attraction in the United States. Everybody says, I'm going to Disney World. That's like a big deal.
It's bigger than Disneyland, much bigger.
Right, because Disneyland gets some people, but Disney World is like...
Right.
And it's much larger in scope. To give you an idea, Disneyland is like a small section of a small to mid-sized city. Disney World is like a county.
Right. Like Kissimmee, Florida is Disney.
Right. So...
Because everyone says it's Orlando, but it's Kissimmee. It's right outside of Orlando. Okay. It's like a suburb of Orlando.
So but it's big enough to be its own suburb, basically.
Yes.
So Disney has been paying for the plumbing, sewage,
roads,
road maintenance,
everything.
In exchange,
tree trimming,
everything in this particular zone, in exchange for like some kind of tax benefits, right? Like they don't. It's some kind of abatement policy or 100-year clause or something.
I'm sure they still have to pay some taxes. Maybe it's lower, but
they get some benefit for doing that.
The government can't tell them what to do.
Right.
They are just completely autonomous in that little bubble.
Right. So they have their little zone, and fast forward to Disney under the supposed successor to Robert Iger, who was a big CEO that they had. What presided over Disney basically taking some issue with the quote "Don't Say Gay" bill that was passed in Florida. Now, historically, Disney has had gay days and other things like this because they like the money. Not that they endorse, not that they have ever explicitly endorsed this. So this was perceived as Disney taking a stand by not taking a stand. There was a lot of kind of in between nonsense and things like that.
You mean Disney had their own version of "Hi, gay"?
Literally. Oh, hi, gay. I don't care if you put it in your butt, but you can get the line ahead of anybody else.
We're going to get flagged for this.
See, I can do more than one impression. I can do 2 impressions. I can do Caitlyn Jenner in various stages of sobriety, and I can do Mickey Mouse in a really upsetting way.
And you have one friend that you can do an impression of, and that friend is not me, but you have a friend that you can do an impression of.
So anyway. So Disney and DeSantis are going head to head. DeSantis gets to look like a tough guy because he took on this massive mega corporation saying, look, if you want to push this woke gender ideology nonsense, then you don't have to get the benefits that you get from this state that allows you to operate. We don't want to essentially be, as a state, subsidizing your woke
and in a way,
nonsense.
almost
Enabling.
condoning and enabling.
Condoning,
Yes.
yeah, which is completely fair.
Now, the blowback, I will say,
Right.
the blowback to him making that decision is that then again, Disney is now off the hook for paying for everything that they have been paying for.
Right. They said, okay, you want to pay as taxpayers for the fire people and
Right.
police and the lights staying on and all this stuff. Be our guest. You can do that. So Disney was not happy with the fact that their outgoing CEO was weak in standing up to Florida. So they brought back Bob Iger, who is known as a major league asshole. I mean, he's known as that. I'm not saying anything libelous. He has a master class basically being an asshole. Like, you pay like $1,000 to hear him be an asshole.
And I haven't taken it, by the way. Contrary to popular belief, excuse me.
You wrote the script. And also who has extraordinary presidential ambitions to the point where Oprah basically endorsed him in a one-on-one interview if he decided to run in 2020. So you've got the 70-plus-year-old man who is known for being a dick, but is now in charge of the Disney Corporation again, who stepped in and basically at the 11th hour before the legislation restricting the Reedy Creek Improvement District, where the state of Florida would essentially regain control of their board and allow the governor's office to nominate people to be on that board. So there's some kind of oversight. At the 11th hour, they defanged the entire board's authority over this area and basically made it so that Disney has perpetual control over any changes that happen in this particular area until the last grandchild of King Charles dies.
No, until 21 years after
The last grandchild.
the last heir of King Charles dies.
Right. So something that they're trying to push basically control way into the 22nd century.
Well, no, like forever. I think it didn't say grandchild. I think it said heir.
Oh.
Meaning
so
like anyone after.
So they could go on literally in perpetuity.
Which is why the podcast I listen to that I won't plug again, which is why the law of perpetuity, when it could be called into place and say, well, you can't actually say this on a contract. I could be mistaken, but that is what I understood from the discussion that was had. So yeah, that's one of the big that's one of the big legal loopholes in this contract, stripping the board of their abilities. And I think the other one they mentioned was there's no compensation. So the board's rights and the board's privileges have been taken away, but in a contract, if you take someone's rights or if you take something away from a party, you have to give them some kind of compensation, and they were not
like a
done
symbolic dollar, like Gwyneth Paltrow's trial.
Yeah,
She won.
you have to be given something, and they weren't given. It was not written into the contract apparently that they were given anything.
So Disney basically went to DeSantis and said, "I wish you well," and walked out. Right now,
It basically said, "Good luck, fighting this in court for the next
2 years,
2
when
to
you're
4
running,
years."
when you're maybe running for president." So Disney has basically effectively reenacted control in one of the largest states in the country. This is problematic for a variety of reasons, not in the problematic sense of wokeness, but it's a problem. It is a problem to have a corporation that has that much control in this country, whatever corporation it may be, in whatever direction they may go in. But the thing that I find interesting about this is, if something happens to Biden, like he just, really shits the bed in the next 18 months, they've leaked on and off throughout the first couple years of this administration that no one wants Kamala to be the person who takes over. So who at a moment's notice could come on and effectively be a presidential candidate?
Pete, no.
Oh, God. And Pete, who has completely mismanaged what was supposed to be a very easy job of keeping the trains running on time. So right now, there's no one in that bench. I mean, that Hillary wants that job, but she's not going to get it. There's too many people that hate her. And so it would end up being someone like a Bob Iger that they could throw in there at the last minute, especially if DeSantis ends up being the Republican nominee, where you can easily say, look, Disney's an American company, what this governor did was un-American. You know, all the horse shit of saying, like, we employ 75,000 people, we know how to keep this place perfect, and dreams come true, and, you know, all that stuff to keep control. That would be probably the person that they could at the last minute nominate if and when there is an issue regarding our dear leader. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Let me just say, because right now,
as we discussed previously, you and I, sorry, offline, we have a big problem with our generation and the generation before us. Of these people love Disney. We grew up with everything Disney. We grew up when Disney was very popular. Right. Yes, Disney obviously has been around for a long time, but they put out their best movies, like, you know, with the technology and all of that stuff in our generation. So we grew up on nothing but Disney. A lot of people grew up on nothing but Disney.
Right.
And they still love it to this day. And they're those strange Disney people who just...
The Disney adults.
Right.
Because Disney
who will buy anything Disney, do everything Disney, and will vote for anyone who had Disney in their portfolio or resume.
Right. Disney adults spend more on average. They did a study about this. Disney adults spend more on average than a family that has like 2 or 3 children that subscribe to Disney in there. One deranged adult. And by the way, Disney adults should be... You talk about people who should be quarantined. Oh my God. That is terrifying. You know, like grown-ass people who collect Funko Pops of different Disney characters and things like that. Like the soy of the soy.
We're going to alienate one of our listeners.
There's not a Disney adult.
No, I'm not saying that anyone that I know. I'm just saying someone who's going to be listening is going to be like, oh, God, they hate me. We hate you.
Someone's going to be like, that's not very the force should be with me of you. Like some sick shit like that. But there's people who do this. And Disney has basically realized they can make more money off of these people than they can off of actual children who media should be designed for. Which is why also the woke signaling nonsense works more because, okay, big deal, your family's Christian, you don't really want, you know, a Disney character being intersex. We have 3 adults who will line up and buy the merchandise of the intersex Disney character, so fuck you, we don't need your money. Which would be really gross. I mean, the Emperor's New Pussy. Like, I don't know what's coming out next.
You could see the face that I'm making.
It's really horrible. He looks like he just sucked a lemon or he saw a nude woman. So,
I'm sorry, just a really quick aside. Can I tell one quick story? Because you brought it up.
Yes.
I saw in college, okay, I didn't know this girl. It was one of my first moments of ever just saying something out of character.
Yes.
I saw this girl sitting in our dorm, and she had a stank face on, and one of my friends knew her and was talking to her, and I said, why does she look like she just licked a radioactive cunt? And the look of horror that I got from this girl, and she's like, you gonna be my friend, and then she walked away.
I saw Radioactive Cunt at the Whiskey back in '96. Great band.
Well, she licked him.
Well, on that note, this is a short one because you've got to jump off. But I do want to
Not a bridge.
Well, no, you wouldn't jump off. You'd throw me off. But there was another topic I wanted to get to. Well, 2 more. Trump's really, Trump being arrested. And
that deserves its own.
That deserves its own. And also the adults being nonverbal with each other. Right. Because we had 2 incidences today that I think they're worth talking about. But we can jump on that another time. Anyway, what's our usual sign off?
Is it go fuck yourselves?
Go fuck yourselves. Bye-bye.